So today, as we all know, we're talking about the allocations feature, albeit a few minutes late, with Commerce7, and it's a big feature. So we are going to be taking probably the full time here to talk about all of it. It's really robust. It's super powerful, and we'll talk about how it works and why you should use it and when you should use it. So first, I just want to go over what we'll be talking about. So basically, what's an allocation? Obviously, most of you know what that is, but we will very briefly go through what it is. We're going to build an allocation. We're going to take a look at the front end experience. We're going to grant some wishes. And then we're also going to talk about the use of personalization blocks when those folks are logging in, so you can kind of personalize that experience. So very first thing is briefly, what is an allocation? At its heart, it's the ability to offer specific quantities of very specific products to a defined segment of customers. So I always think of like the high scoring wine. You get a 94 from Wine Spectator, you have this wine, you're like, oh my goodness, there's going to be a ton of people coming to the site to want to get this wine. But I really want to make sure that my top people have first dibs at it. So what you can do is create an allocation so that only those folks can get that wine, at least initially. So it's a great way to be able to just handle those high demand, low supply scenarios, like a highly anticipated vintage, or if you have a special low production wine that you do, you know, every few years, for instance, like a late harvest Chardonnay or old vine cab, something like that. So it's a really cool tool to be able to do that. So we, without further ado, are going to hop into Commerce7, and then let's go build an allocation. We're on the dashboard. We're going to head into the store and then into allocations. And I don't have one built right now, so we're going to go ahead and start fresh. We're going to add an allocation. We want to title it. Now, this is going to be customer facing. I'm just going to call it Fall 2022, but you can get fancier if you would like. Start date is going to default to the day that you are creating the allocation. It does require an end date. In this case, I'm going to say 2 weeks. Content, obviously, you have a lot of options here. I'm just going to throw in here, welcome. Oops, welcome to your, if I can spell, allocation. And then down here, if you do have a product template, you will be able to search for it. I don't have any in here, so it's going to be the default view. Wish types. So when folks go in and they purchase their allocation, let's say it's 12 bottles, and they say they're thinking, oh my goodness, I'd love to get more if I can get it. Well, they can wish for it. They can request additional bottles. And there are a couple of different ways to define it, to define what they can do. So the first one is a request to purchase more. The second one is a commitment to purchase more. If they request, if you mark this to request to purchase more, then the person says, okay, I want my 12 bottles. And if you have an additional 6 bottles after, you look at your inventory, et cetera, please let me know so that I can go on and purchase those additional bottles. So it is incumbent upon the customer to take that action at that point. They go in and purchase those bottles. Commitment to purchase, and if you are coming from VineSpring, you're familiar with this. This is the model that's in VineSpring by default, which is that I want those extra 6 bottles, and I am letting you know, admin winery, that it's okay to charge my card on file. Please do send it. Go ahead and fulfill it. You don't have to let me know first before you hit my card again for those additional wishes. So I'm going to go ahead and choose that for my allocation here. All right, now we decide on products. So it defaults max to 12. You can obviously change that up or down here. I'm going to go ahead and leave that for the cab. And then my rosé, I'll make it a little more interesting here and make it just a wish only. So that means that if you do maximum of 0, folks can still wish for it. You can still fulfill those wishes with their credit card, but they can't outright purchase these in their allocation. Maybe you only have, 50 cases of them and you don't want them to go really quick. You want to be very specific about who gets them. So we do that. Let's scroll. Whoops, sorry. This is in the way. Okay, so there we go. And so there they are. So this is saying that in this allocation, the Cabernet, there's a max of 12 and there's a max of 0 for the sparkling, which means that it's going to be wish only. All right, and then we continue. And now we decide who is going to be eligible for this particular allocation. It could be a tagged segment of folks. It could be a club. It could be specific customers. So you can search for specific customers and put them in here. I actually created a tag called allocation. It has the people that I want to include. So I'm going to put that person or those folks in there. And sure, let's add one more in here. Let's add Candy Cane. She can be in there as well. Continue. Okay, so this brings us out to the summary page. We've created this fall allocation, and there are a few tabs up here. So we have our customers, which shows us who exactly is in that special tagged segment that I just created, plus Candy Cane, because I included her. We have a performance tab, which is all zeros right now. But once the allocation gets going and people start purchasing and wishing and you're granting wishes, then you'll start seeing these pieces of data coming in here, and you'll be able to keep a running, kind of a running tally, if you will. And then down here, you will see the actual orders populating. So you can go down there and take a look there too. And there are lots of filters down here if you want to see particular lists of orders. We have our wishes tab, which we will be coming back to, but this is where you will manage the wishes. And then metadata, if you have any configured, then you will see that data in there. Couple more things up here. We have the more actions, edit history, which in a lot of Commerce7, we keep a log of who is making any edits to a particular thing. And that's the same thing here. If anybody on your team makes a change to the allocation, you'll know how, or not how, but who and when. You can delete it, of course, delete the allocation. And then you have the opportunity to duplicate the allocation if you would like. A good example of that would be if, for instance, you had 3 different tiers that you wanted to offer wines to. Your top tier gets, an allocation of 12 bottles. Your mid tier gets an allocation of 6. And then the bottom tier gets an allocation, maybe 3. Then you would have 3 separate allocations, and you could use this duplicate to make it really, really easy. Then all you'd have to, change are the basically the audience and the quantities. So we have created our allocation here. And let's go take a look at what it looks like on the front end. I'm going to go in here. And there are of course, let's see here because I'm on my other computer. So let's do this one. There we go. So there are a few ways to view the allocations online. One is when the customer is in their dashboard, there is an allocations tab here. And if you're coming from VineSpring, you'll be very familiar with that. It's the same thing that we have at VineSpring. You click on it and you will see the allocated wines there. Folks can go ahead and purchase from there. The other thing is if you go to the shop page, if you do have a shop page where you also offer up, wines that aren't a part of the allocation, wines that anybody can purchase, you'll see here the allocated wines are here along with those other wines that are in your shop. So in my opinion, I love this. I think it's great to be able to add wines from both places and makes it super easy. And it's also when your customer's over here getting his allocation of cab, you might be like, oh yeah, I forgot about the Chardonnay, and you know it'll really spark probably some additional sales, I would imagine. So it's a great way to do that. And then the other way is, if we go back out to the main page here, this is the use of personalization blocks. We're going to talk about this a little bit more in depth later in the webinar, but I just wanted to show you that this is if you use a personalization block for your allocated folks. And it's just a really great way to say, hey, we know you're allocated and we know you're special, and here's a special message just for you. I'm going to go back to the shop page so we can see what it looks like when we purchase an allocated product. So let's do the Cabernet here. So the first thing I see here is the name. Of course, that was the customer facing title. We see when it's ending. We see how much is available. And we have this purchase additional, which is the wish list modal. So let's see what how this all works. So I'm going to go ahead and choose all 12. And then I'm like, oh, yep. Did I hear? Oh, I thought I heard someone. Then I'm going to click on purchase additional. This explains that, okay, if you wish for this quantity, you're going to be charged for it. You're going to, and if we have it, then you will be charged for it. I'm going to do an additional 6. Confirm that request. And you'll see here the text changed to 6 pending for purchase. Let's add to cart. And moving our faces, we see the 12 here, which again are the original 12 that I'm purchasing. We're going to proceed to checkout. And we're going to place the order. Fantastic. One thing I want to call out right now is if I placed my order and then I was like, oh, shoot, I meant to wish for more. You can go back to your allocation, and you can edit that wish. I wanted 12 more if they can give it to me. So just know that at any point, your customer can come back in up until the point that it's granted. They'll be able to come back in and change it if they would like. Okay, so back in Commerce7, let's go take a look now at how that looks. I'm going to refresh my page. Okay, so now when we, well, first of all, when you're on the orders page, you will see that allocation order there. Then when we go to the allocations page, we can go to the performance, and now you'll see, okay, yep, she purchased 12 and she has requested 12. And, oh, and also down here, you'll see the order as well. And then we go to the wishes. And a couple of things here that I just want to call out. One is that if you have someone who calls up and says, oh, I want to place a wish, you as the admin can do that by simply adding a wish from the main wishes tab, where you'll be able to search for the customer and place that wish for them. The other thing that you can do is when we click into a specific wish, again, you as the admin can go ahead and edit the one that is here by clicking on the pencil. And you can say, oh yeah, she actually wanted 3 of those as well. She called up and said she wants those. And then you can save the wish. So lots of flexibility with wish management, both from the admin perspective as well as from the customer perspective, which is fantastic. Okay, so we can grant wishes both individually and in bulk. So if you were to do it individually, you can come here. Again, we're on the specific wish screen for this customer. And when you click on grant wish, you can decide, oh, yep, you know what? She's cool. I'm going to give her all the wishes she wants, but you can do, less if you would like, in which case it would be partially granted. We are going to grant that wish. Now they show as granted. And let's go take a look over here. Oh, wait, let me do one more. Yeah. All right, so now that is granted. I want to go actually back to the wishes screen here because I want to show you that it's granted there. And now you can create the order. And again, you can do this directly. I should have actually showed this to you if you go back. So if we're here and we granted those wishes, you can then go ahead and click create the order for the grant for this particular person. So if you want to do that, you could. So basically it's a two-step process. You're going to grant the wishes, and then you're going to create the order. Wish orders are separate from the original allocation order. They are two different separate orders. So that's why there's that kind of two-step process there. Let me go back into wishes. The other way to grant wishes, let's say you had 100 of these and you granted them all, and now you're ready to create the orders. You can do that here under actions. You would create the orders. And in this case, because I have gone ahead and said, yes, we're committing, we did the commit of the orders. We could create the orders and it would automatically charge those orders, create the orders, fulfill the orders, unless you have it, the fulfillment status defined differently, which we'll talk about in a minute. So these are going to create the orders, and then they'll be on their way to fulfillment. So I'm going to go ahead and create the order here, create one order. You are emailed a summary. So again, if you have 100 of these or more, you're emailed a summary, or you can go to the bulk actions page and take a look at the progress. And all right, so if we go back to performance now and we scroll down, we will now see both orders. We have the original web order, and now we have our wish order as well. Anything that Margaret, you or Andrew want to add at this point?
You're doing a great job, Brittany.
I know that it can get a little bit confusing when I'm trying to kind of talk about the different, how the orders are separated, et cetera, but hopefully it makes sense. Also, our documentation is fantastic on this, so you can always take a look at that as well. Okay, very, very important. When you are bulk granting, bulk charging, you want to make sure that, well, okay, when you're doing that, the bulk action takes into account the shipping address that is on the customer profile. What that means is that any pickup orders are the wishes are going to go, not going to be picked up. They are marked as picked up. They are going to be going to the shipping address, the default shipping address that's on the customer profile. Because of that, you want to handle all of your pickup orders, not by the bulk action, but individually prior to doing the bulk action. So super important to remember. And again, this is called out in all the documentation, but I definitely wanted to bring that up here too. You want to do those individually, and then you can go back and do the bulk action for all the shipping orders. Let's see here. Let's talk about I'm going to head into the personalizations unless you guys on our Commerce7 team want to talk about anything else about the granting of wishes.
We do have one question that might be helpful to address right now versus waiting till the end. So Jessica from Merpre is asking, so Andrew, we actually have been talking about this in support. So basically there has been a ticket submitted. So essentially the scenario is that the customer has already purchased their maximum allotment, and Jessica and her team would like to override that within admin and inbound channels. At the moment, they aren't able to do so without first generating an additional wish before processing. Is that the intended functionality there, or is that something that we would consider adjusting?
Great question. So I didn't even know it worked that way. I thought that if the person bought their original allocation, the admin already has a button that says you need to override the allocation, right?
Yeah.
I thought that worked. I know that works if they've never bought their allocation or if they're not in the allocated group. I just assumed that if they bought their maximum allocation, that same button worked that way. So the intended functionality is that the override is essentially the admin or POS override is essentially an override that they shouldn't have to adjust the customer at all. So by the way, Margaret, I can't see questions in the view that I have here. I'm happy to take them. So thanks for asking that question in detail. So I got it.
Yeah,
but the intended functionality, and you could hit me up later in Slack, and then we'll definitely, that would be a bug if that's what's happening. Override should always override quantity, which could be done in the admin or POS.
Sounds good. Okay, Jessica, we'll address that for you shortly after the call today. Awesome. Perfect. So Britt, go ahead and move on to the personalizations here, and then we can address the remaining questions at the end. I just thought that one was helpful for the override specifically.
Got it. Okay, cool. So one thing that is what we consider best practice is the use of the personalization blocks, especially with regard to allocations. And so let's go take a look at that. We're going to go to the dashboard, into marketing, and into personalizations. And here we are in personalization, easy for me to say, personalization blocks. And specifically, I'm looking at the home page, and I have a couple of different blocks here. One we saw earlier on the front end, where when I have an allocation, it says, hey, welcome to your curated allocation, blah, 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 you're so special, and here are your allocated wines. Every personalization or personalization blocks can feature collections. So what I did was I created, and let's go take a look at it. I created a collection called Allocation Collection. And those were the wines that showed after that, hey, welcome to your allocation. In fact, let's just for fun, go back to the front end so we can see that. So here we are. This is the personalization block. Welcome to your curated allocation, et cetera, et cetera. And then these were the wines that I put into my allocation collection. Now, obviously, I could add other wines here. I could add the ones that are also in the shop, you know, whatever you would like. But these were the only ones that I did for the example. So we made it so that only those folks who are tagged as an allocated person would see that when they log in. Tag is equal to, and I created a tag called allocation. The other one is the no allocation. So let's take a look at that guy. And this one is I made as general content. And basically it was like, oh, shoot, you know, well, now you came here for the allocation, but you don't have one. We're sorry about that. If you'd like to be considered for one, please sign up on our wait list with a link to that, as well as, hey, feel free to shop our other amazing wines. Happy shopping. So I did that one as a general content. I did not include a collection with that one because I'm trying to kind of push them in other directions so that hopefully they will sign up on the list so that they can have access to this coveted allocation. And then down here it was tag is not equal to allocation, although there may be other factors in there depending on, you know, how specific you want to get with the messaging. Personalization blocks in general are incredibly powerful, and you can make them as personal as you want to. You get, if you have, for instance, multiple allocations, maybe you want to talk to your top tier allocation people very differently than you would to say the allocation that's being offered to someone who has never purchased before. You know, you can get very specific, but we just wanted to definitely call that out because it makes that front end experience that much more personal and has them more connected with your brand. That is what I've got. So any questions or any comments or additions that the team would like to add, it would be fantastic.
Yeah, I'm just going to read out a couple questions we got here from Ashley, just so everyone can hear the answers. So her first question was, so the wish order has an entirely different order number. So yes, Ashley, that is correct. So the initial order would be placed, and then the second order for granting the wishes would be placed as a second order with a different order number. And then her second question here is, can you limit the number of bottles a customer can wish for? So not at this time, but you can definitely limit the number that you're granting. So that is what is possible there with the wishes. And that's all we've got for questions at the moment. So happy, if anyone wants to submit any other ones, we're happy to address those at this time. Okay, Sarah, hi, is there a link you can send in an email that will automatically take customers to their allocations? So Sarah, I guess what Brittany described right there with the personalization blocks is one way to accomplish this. Andrew just unmuted himself, so I think he has something to add here. So I'll let him take over.
That's the best answer, Margaret. So I would use the personalization block and I'd send them right there. If you want to, you could send them to /profile/allocation, which is the way that you might have done it if you're on Wine Direct or back when you're on VineSpring, when people would have to go deep into their profile, into their allocation area. But the better way is to do what Margaret just said with the personalization block. Put on your homepage, put it on a special page, put it on an allocation page, and just link them directly there, because you could have your allocations anywhere on your site now.
Awesome. If you have follow-up questions on that, Sarah, let us know. We're happy to help. And personalization blocks are not only useful for allocations, but just for communicating with your customers in general. So I would highly recommend looking into implementing those if you haven't already.
We did a free training Friday, it was 2 or 3 of them ago. That was an entire webinar on it. And so definitely you can take a look at those too. They're all in the documentation. Just look up Friday or free and it brings all of them up.
All right, we'll wait just a few more minutes for additional questions, but there's nothing at the moment, so we'll just wait here. Okay, I guess Brittany just did such a good job that there's just no room left for interpretation here.
Oh my goodness, after my rough start. Well, thank you everyone again for your patience. And we do have some great documentation again on the allocation features. For those of you who are VineSpring folks, when you go into support and you go to documentation, there is specific documentation for you guys with regard to the differences between allocations on VineSpring and allocations on Commerce7. And that has lots of videos and stuff as well that may help you with just understanding the differences and how Commerce7 can definitely handle it. There's lots of really good stuff in there and lots of stuff that we didn't have in VineSpring, which is super exciting.
Awesome. And I just wanted to mention as well, so we will not be having our free training Friday on September the 16th. We will actually all be getting together in Vancouver as a company. So we'll be doing events on that Friday. So we'll have our next free training Friday on the 23rd of September, I believe. Is that correct, Brittany?
Yep. Perfect.
Awesome. So that's when we'll have our next one. So it won't be in 2 weeks, but the third week instead. And we're always happy to talk with you guys and hear your feedback on these features. So thank you so much for joining today. If any other questions do come up, please feel free to let us know at support@commerce7.com. We'll be happy to address those for you. And Jessica will follow up on that other question that you asked earlier today as well. Awesome. Thank you guys. And thank you,
Thank
Brittany.
you. Bye.